Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Lia, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hi there.
So what's funny is today we got on a little early and we've had some reconnecting time, which I think is really important and great because something that is nice is to be in a space with, I think, good friends where you can just kind of like be honest with each other.
Right.
We've been being honest for over an hour.
Yeah. We've already been talking for an hour and then we're like, we should probably record.
We should hit record.
Yes. So maybe we should start a new segment called Frankly Speaking, but I don't know if we ever need to do that to anyone.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I could probably get in some legal trouble there.
Yeah. Anyone else wants to hear our conversations.
But I do thank you both for being here to listen to me tonight. I mean, we were all listening to each other, but I definitely had some stuff to unload.
Yeah.
What's your friendship for?
You know what? Well, I guess we're not going to unfortunately be able to listen to you unload, listener at home. But you know what you can do right now is if you're feeling at max with something, then
we're listening in spirit. We're listening in spirit. Just shout it out.
Void, and we are going to receive whatever that scream is and send you back some love.
Yeah. If you're in the car,
if you've ever listened to this podcast, you're going to be like, what the fuck am I listening to right now?
I know this is
like multi-level marketing.
Yeah. If you're in the car, just like, I don't know, shout it through the windshield and we will somehow through the universe absorb your frustration and we are validating you. We hear you.
And just release some of that burden.
Yeah. We all need to do it sometimes.
So tonight we are going to release the burden of how we feel about a certain trope in K-drama. So this is our uncensored, but it's also, we're trying to make them a little bit topical. So we don't have anything like very formal prepared for tonight, but we do have a topic that we want to talk about, that we like talking about. And we've also thrown it to the Patreon to see if they want to talk about this too. And that's love triangles. Love triangles in romance, obviously, because, we're talking about like romance dramas with this, but just like in general, how do you both feel about love triangles in a romance drama, a romance book, a romance anything?
I would say like historically, I haven't liked them, but I've been trying to unpack why that is. And I think it leads back to a little bit of a snobbishness towards like the young adult books that kind of came out like Twilight, when like they all had those love triangles. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that I had like a very like snobby opinion, even though I never even read Twilight. That's what I'm saying. Like it was unfounded.
Wait, what? Twilight?
No.
Record scratch. Back it up. How has this never come up in 10 years?
I thought you guys knew. I never read Twilight.
Megan.
I know.
Megan, so you don't know about Jacob imprinting on an ovum?
I know because you told me.
I feel like this is going back with Star Wars, where you just kind of like laughed along and like, and Princess Bride.
Wait, I have actually I have one more confession that you are going to lose your shit over that I've never confessed to you. Because all
right, this is turning into a totally different kind of episode. This is just like, confess.
I never read the last Harry Potter book.
That I don't find is, you've seen the movie, really? Right? You know the story.
Yeah, I know the story.
I'm surprised. Yeah. I think I would be more surprised if we weren't like canceling J.K. Rowling. I am surprised because I'm like, how did you get to the end? And then you're like, good to go.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think I just like it. Like I didn't have the book on hand. This was when I was like only reading paperbacks, and like this was like before.
That actually
Kindle.
Doesn't get me as much because you do know the story because you've seen the movies. And
yeah.
And I kind of went out of order with them too, because by the time I started reading Harry Potter, they were already starting to come out as movies. And so I think I kind of zigzagged with it.
I actually sort of got like bogged down.
But I'm more surprised about Twilight.
Yeah, I've never read Twilight. And well, again, at the time, my reading habits were I thought I was too highbrow for Twilight. And I'm saying, like, I'm ashamed to say this. Like, I don't believe this anymore. I wish that I had gotten swept up in the Twilight craze with everyone else. I truly do.
It's not too late.
Because I got swept up in the 50 Shades of Grey craze when everyone else did, and I don't regret that at all.
And I've never read 50 Shades of Grey.
And that's okay, good or bad.
50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, I actually am really okay. That surprises me.
That does surprise me a lot.
That very much surprises me that you never read.
Just because, like, it was that such a moment.
It's Twilight fan fiction.
It is. It's Twilight fanfic.
And just because it was just like a thing. I don't know.
I know. So here's the thing. So I had another writing friend at the time who could not believe I hadn't read them, and she bought them all for me, and even bought like a book jacket to put over them that said Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, that's funny.
And I literally, like, I didn't have any desire, and I am not being a highbrow and dissing anybody who read it and liked it, but I tried reading the first couple of pages and I couldn't, like, it just did not work for me.
So I know your reading habits, and I wouldn't expect you to super enjoy 50 Shades of Grey, just because I know you. I know what you like to read. I don't think it's like an Amy book, an Amy series. I think you would have been fine if you got into it and read them all, but that's beside the point. So my whole point to lead to love triangles was I always kind of like, I didn't read like Divergent. Anytime I saw those, like, kind of those books.
You read the Hunger Games though, yeah?
I love the Hunger Games.
Okay.
I read I love the Hunger Games.
Do you see there's a Haymitch book coming?
I don't like prequels and stuff. I won't.
Well, I didn't read the Snow prequel, but anyway, we don't need to
me
go
either.
that.
And I didn't like the last book, but actually this is
that's right. That's right. You say that Mockingjay didn't happen.
No,
that's fine.
But it actually is really funny because my husband has started watching the Hunger Games movies. He's never read the books because he's not a book reader. And he had some questions about this, because the last two movies broke Mockingjay into two. You know what I mean? So there were like two movies. He is very confused about what's going on.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, join the club. Everyone was. Mockingjay.
Right, because Mockingjay 1
not good in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's great. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like I got very snobby about love triangles because I looked down on them as just like kind of like stupid teenage romances. And again, I regret that. I wish that I didn't have that attitude, but I think that like kind of brought itself over. I'm also the kind of person who, so OMW, if you know that acronym, it's very common on Goodreads. It's called, other woman. Oh no, it's OWD, which stands for like other woman drama. So that would be like a love triangle. That would be like there's another woman who's like somehow infecting the relationship affecting the relationship of the lead couple. And I don't like follow that tag, but I am the type of person that I don't want other woman drama usually in my books. I'm very much like, I love it when the hero is like insta lust, insta love immediately. It's just like my type of thing. However, that's why I was like always kind of straying away from love triangles. And so every time you guys would be like, oh, there's this great K-drama with a love triangle, I'd be like, no, I don't want to watch it. But as triangles or as K-dramas do, I've been drawn now into the love triangle love.
They make you like things you didn't know you liked.
They make me like things I didn't know I liked. Maybe I probably would have absolutely loved Twilight. Like, I'm really sure if I read that when like during its heyday, I would have freaking
do
loved
it now. Seriously, it is just delicious.
But I
mean, you'll hate Bella Swan, but it's not about Bella. It's about everybody else.
It's about and so now when I see that there's a love triangle in K-dramas, I actually start to get a little bit excited. I still wouldn't say that it's like the main draw for me if I see like that there's a love triangle in a K-drama, but I'm starting to really enjoy how K-dramas handle it. So that was a long-winded explanation.
That was very long-winded.
I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
We got sidetracked a couple times.
I feel like maybe, so here's my theory. I feel like you don't have enough vampires in your past to know a good love triangle. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I think of Twilight. I think of the Vampire Diaries.
Yeah, I didn't watch that either.
So like even in, right, I know you didn't. Like even in Twilight, like I was always Team Edward. Like I knew something was up with Jacob. But I still loved the tension of that whole situation, especially since, Vampire Edward was very unpredictable and moody. And then in the Vampire Diaries, you've got two brothers, and the series starts with, I mean, I was 100% like Team Stefan. Series started, and when Elena then switched over to Damon, I was like, absolutely not. Stefan was the one. Stefan was perfect. I am Team Damon now. Like, so I think that there are ways that it can be done really well where the tension is good, and you don't know who the right guy is for the heroine. And I love that you brought up like other woman drama, because I would feel very differently about a love triangle that had an ex-girlfriend or another woman coming into the picture, because it's also like wish fulfillment for me too, right? Because I want two men fighting over me. Like who doesn't want people fighting for your love? And because I am, a cishet woman, I want the two men to be fighting over me. So yeah, if you give me a story with a love triangle and it is one guy and two women, I don't get that wish fulfillment. So I'm not going to like it as much. And that may work for other people, and that's totally fine. So I liked them coming into K-dramas, and I like them even more now that I'm watching K-dramas.
So I feel like I'm going to try to unpack this in a way that like doesn't denigrate the genre that I spend so much time trying to like lift and defend, which is when you know that there's going to be a defined happy ending, like, you figure like there's an immediate tension loss that you run the risk of because you know how people are going to get together. And then like the way that a romance retains its interest is like, what does that process unveil along the way? And so for me, what I tend to find compelling is like the kind of inner work that people do to like figure out how to drop their bullshit and call each other on their bullshit and like do better to like fall in love and like earn the right for their like HEA at the end. Love triangles can like fit into this though in a fun way to me, where like I like it a lot. And it's very rare that it happens when you like really don't know who somebody's going to pick. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, of like why it's like made some of my dramas like my more top favorite. And I think it's because I like knowing there's going to be some sort of a resolution, but I like if I really can't tell. And it's very uncommon, I think. Like I do not think it's a common love triangle to not know. And so for example, like something like Titanic, I'm going to use some Western examples. Something like Titanic is like not a love triangle really, because like the third wheel is like a villain.
Yeah. We hate him. He's terrible.
I'm going to just lean back on Twilight, which I hadn't originally meant to talk about. First, for a few reasons. One, because like Twilight's love triangle, it's a triangle, but it's really just like a grand cosmic pyramid of intense passion shared between Bella, Edward, and Jacob that like is so blinding that it puts the sun to shame, really. But I'm just kidding. To me, if you've never read Twilight and you want to, skip ahead here, because I'm gonna get into why I liked it so much.
Well, I already gave away Jacob.
I'm gonna get into it a little more.
I mean, okay.
I know that I don't care. You can't bring it up, and I'm never gonna not talk. I will not be able to. I physically have to discuss it.
That's fine.
The fact that we have Jacob imprinting on an ovum, essentially, which is why he's so obsessed with Bella. And so when the baby...
Were you not here when I said this 5 minutes ago?
Yes, I'm talking about it again.
Okay, I'm just saying, like you're saying, fast forward. I'm like, I already ruined it.
Okay, sit here then. I don't care. I just want my time. My time to talk about a moment that's important to me. Don't ruin it for me. My life had little joy.
I want you to have this. I just want you to know that it's too late. I already ruined it.
Okay. So whoever's here who's still just grappling with this, I'm going to give more context to the fact it's over. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's spoiled. It's
no, go.
No, go.
Do it. I know you love this.
I'm all shaken up. My point is that it's a bad love triangle that Edward's always going to be the winner. But it makes it an interesting love triangle because the twist in the love triangle is a new one, which is the second male lead is invested in a biological piece of the heroine, which is so he doesn't go away, he still becomes family. And I just thought like that, I have not seen that twist really done before. Maybe that exists a lot in like monster romance. I'm not sure.
So he's like a good Amugi.
Kinda, yeah.
He's kind of like a good Amugi. That is a very good way to put it, which is maybe why Amugi is so also appealing.
Right, because Amugi wanted like a part of the hero. He didn't want the heroine. But in a way, it was like a love triangle.
Yeah.
Because he wanted the heroine's body for his like purposes.
Yeah, I mean, we're making a very loose correlation. But
I love it.
It does work.
It's a big leap, but it's
because
okay.
I feel like the whole time, like I was like, of course it's not going to be Jacob. No shit, it's Edward. Like you're going to go with the band. Like there's just never any tension. So you're like, okay, there's drama, but like we all know how this is going to go. But I was genuinely surprised.
Agree.
When we came with the third act plot twist, which was no, the reason I was obsessed this entire time. Although I know sperm repopulates a lot in the body, but I mean, I do have questions then, like we should have had some sort of magical draw to Edward. I digress because of
right. Is there a soul backpack that we don't know about in Edward's sperm?
Oh my God, I forgot. Oh my God.
But I thought that was a fun twist on it. But yeah, for me, I think that what makes love triangles ultimately kind of just interesting is that I don't like them when like you really do know just like how it's going to go. In that case, it's usually kind of like meh. But I like it when you're like, I truly don't know who they're going to choose. And when I can get one of those and I feel like they're both worthy in different ways. And like Startup, I felt like we knew kind of who it was going to go, but it's still like that one. We're going to get into more of these later. But like, yeah. I like when there's pain involved in a love triangle. I really don't like a love triangle if it's just kind of like plot filler.
I will like I agree with you, but then I do see like K-drama like making me change my mind. And like Megan and I think brought this up like briefly in Mary Mate Murder, is in the love triangle in Lovely Runner. It is 100% clear who the end game is going to be, but we have such a charming second lead in Lovely Runner.
So charming. And I love him.
And there is no tension as far as who will Imsul pick. Will it be Sanjay or Kim Tae-sung? Like there's no question. But the tension between Sanjay and Tae-sung is like bananas good, like so fantastic because they're threatened by each other, even though we are not threatened by the second lead. And so I think that there is something to be said for having that second lead play his part without threatening the romance, but still somehow be a joy to be part of the story. And for me, it was the tension between Sanjay and Tae-sung. It was hilarious and I loved it. So yeah, there was no question that Sanjay was the end game.
Right. I'm actually, if it's okay, I want to skip because I feel like this podcast or Patreon comment is kind of related to what
go ahead, dive in.
We just said, so I want to read it. So this is from Sarah. She said, I feel like love triangles are often there to gum up the plot and draw things out. Usually the second male lead doesn't have a chance and it's all very predictable. And then she said, I actually didn't mind the love triangle in Startup because it could have gone either way. Walk of Love also kept me guessing about the love triangle through the first half. And then she's currently watching Another Miss O. And she says, it's interesting because it's a different setup than we usually see with two women and one guy, although there's really not much suspense around who is endgame, which is very true. One thing that she says at the beginning, she says she thinks sometimes there's love triangles that are just there to gum up the plot and draw it out. And I don't disagree. And I would say those are the ones I absolutely dislike. Mm-hmm. If the second male lead is on the screen and I'm just irritated that he's on the screen because I know he's not endgame and his scenes don't serve a purpose for the plot, like the actual like external plot, I'm beyond irritated. If he's just there to like interrupt her, have a conversation that doesn't matter, I can't stand it. I can't stand it because I'm like, why is he there? What's the point? I want a love triangle where he has a purpose. The second male lead, like give him his own goal, motivation, conflict, and give him like a job to do that furthers the plot, which I would say in My Lovely Runner Taesung did. At the very beginning, I was like, oh, he's sort of annoying. He's just this like high school boy. And it seemed like he was just there to kind of like waste time. But then as the drama went on, I realized he played a very important part in the plot. And then I absolutely loved it. I would say My Lovely Liar is very similar. The second male lead had a very important part in the plot. And I loved it. I would say that I think if he's just there, if the second male lead is just there to like not do anything, he often also has a sad ending, as in like they send him off where he either like dies or he's like mad, his like final scene is him like humiliated or something like that. I'm always gonna love when the second male lead gets a good ending. Like even in My Lovely Liar, he still got a good ending. And same with Lovely Runner. I'm getting those two. I can't talk about
those are hard. Those are hard titles to talk about in the same sentence.
I'm like almost avoiding talking about Startup because I feel like that's the big one that we'll get to in a little bit. I just wanted to read that comment because when she talks about gumming up the plot and drawing it out, I agree with her on some. Like I do. That is when I don't like the love triangle.
I think, and I don't mean to like keep like beating this dead horse of you not watching Extraordinary You, but I think that you would like the meta-ness of the second lead in Extraordinary You, because the second lead, so for anybody who hasn't seen Extraordinary You, all of the characters in the drama are actually characters in a comic, in like a graphic novel, and some become aware that they are just characters being written on the page, that they don't really have control over their lives, and some just go with the flow and just do what they're told. And the second lead becomes aware. This is a little bit of a spoiler, but I'm not giving away the whole plot. Becomes aware, and like you get to see how a second lead feels about being the second lead, and he actually does get a good ending. So I thought that was very fun to see, and I really liked him too. Like he was a really great character. So I think that's a fun one to look at because he's not even a love triangle second lead. Because then we also do have a love triangle in that drama, and the love triangle people are both aware as well. So you get to see that meta-ness of how they feel about it and the kind of things that, we've got Lee Jae-hyuk as the second lead, like the second lead love triangle second lead in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to see like the bitterness that he feels about being the one not chosen. You get to see the manipulation that he tries to get the heroine back and the kind of things that he will sink to try and win. And it was a really interesting take on that whole situation.
Right.
And so you touched on something else, because I'd say something that I'm seeing as a common thread in the Patreon are folks saying that they just don't really like, if they do enjoy love triangles, they don't generally like it where the second lead is just an obstacle.
Plot Muppet.
Yeah, an obstacle.
However,
yes.
I do validate something that you said, which that I think can be part of like the yum of it, which is, even if you kind of ultimately know who the character may choose, it kind of speaks into that like internal fantasy of like two worthy choices like fighting over a person is kind of, and so I can see where there's like an element of that for like a viewer or reader, in that like of course you know who they're going to pick with, but it's still kind of like you're caught up in like that battle, and that's kind of like has the butter elements to it. And so I think that's a pretty warranted point.
Yeah, I would say too, I don't love triangles where the goal is just to make someone jealous. That's like the only point of like having a second male lead is to make the first male lead jealous. I don't enjoy that because that just feels like emotional manipulation of me. I don't know. I would say it's been a long time since I watched My Roommate is a Gumio, but I do remember being irritated by the second male lead. Again, not the actor's fault, but he was sort of just there to make the male lead jealous. And it just felt like every time he was in the scene, I was just like, can we just move this along? Like, she's not going to pick him. I feel like you're wasting my time with him. So I would say like that's an example of like a love triangle that didn't work. Unfortunately, it wasn't a big part of the drama. I wouldn't call that drama a love triangle in any way, just because it didn't take up a huge part, but it was still enough that I remember being irritated by it.
Yeah, if it's there just to take time, then it is very annoying. I'm just kind of looking through what some other people are saying, and Caroline talks about, loving love triangles, obviously bringing up a favorite, and she's not the only one to mention it, but like we can't really talk about it, but all we can say, like, Reply 1988, I think one of the best love triangles that there is, where you don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah, I want to talk about that one, we can talk about it now or we can talk about it later, but I think the patron had some points to make about it, and that's the one I wanted to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
So we can decide.
Yeah, actually, why don't we talk about it now? Because I was actually I looked at that same comment that you probably did, and I think we should talk about it.
Okay.
As carefully as possible.
No, I think we just tell people to skip over. I want to do spoilers, so we just
Okay, skip over. Do not listen about Reply 1988, because you really do not know until the very, very end.
Yeah. And so this is your chance to skip ahead, I would say 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And okay. And so I think, I was thinking about, this is one of my top dramas. I think, am I the only one who has it like in their top 3?
I definitely do not.
It's
I
not
don't
my
even
top
have
3.
it. It wasn't even in my top 25.
It was in my top 25.
Okay. So yeah, so it's definitely my top 3. I just couldn't remember. I'm sorry. And what we're talking about in it is like, so first of all, this is obviously not a soul. There is a mystery throughout the entire drama of there being, this, who does one of the leads end up with? But the entire drama is not solely on the romantic relationships. The whole drama also heavily emphasizes like family dynamics, friendships, personal growth, and other kind of like pretty important, but not ultimately like the main romantic couples. And so I just wanted to, should we start with what the Patreon member had to say about it?
Yeah, because I like that.
Okay, so this is Katie. So Katie asks a question and then kind of expresses their opinion. Mm-hmm. So does unrequited or unexpressed love for someone who is interested in someone count as a love triangle? This situation is often poignant and enjoyable to me in a wallowy way, so long as the pining person is 1, a fully realized character, not a device, 2, not pushy or creepy, and 3, personally attractive to me. But I don't count that as a love triangle. I see it as a different thing that probably has a name better than unexpressed love situation. Heather calls it a one-sided love above. Maybe that's the term of art. My hot take is that Reply 1988 is not a love triangle, but an unexpressed love situation. It's not like our female lead actively chooses between 2 suitors.
That is a very good point. But
I have an opinion. I mean, good point. Very good comment.
I do. Yeah, I was going to say, she knows. She knows. And she has the feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's, even though just because it's not explicitly stated, I don't necessarily think it's completely unknown.
Is it okay if I go and then I'll let, after Lia has more? In my opinion, that is a type of love triangle. I stand by that falls under the love triangle umbrella. And I also think, look, the audience knows. And to me, that's important. To me, it still matters that there were 2 men who loved her. And she had positive feelings for both of them. And the audience knew. So to me, that's a love triangle. But I get it. I understand. And I think you can still call it like a one-sided love. But to me, that's still under like a love triangle situation.
Yeah, and I don't think it was a one-sided love. I think there were times where it could have gone either way, truly. But I think for me, it's like, I think what becomes interesting is like when we say like, how do we actually define something? Because that's what we're falling it under, is we're saying, does this meet the legal definition of a love triangle? And for me, I would say, look, when it comes to trope, there's going to be gray area. And I think we've talked about in other spaces, like enemies to lovers to me can be a very gray area where we can say something feels like enemies to lovers. Are they actually enemies? Like enemies is a heavy word. No.
Right.
Are they slight rivals at work? Sure. Right. But we're going to say like that doesn't really like, so yeah, I would say under like we have under an umbrella of definition, all these different things. So basically I'm just echoing kind of what Megan says in terms of like when we get into categories, we could have like love triangle with like the element of unexpressed versus the element of to make the character jealous. Like there's the different motivations that kind of underpin it under like one spanning, and some are going to lean harder into the trope part and some are going to be a little bit like less removed from it. But I feel like they kind of can, for me, I feel like there's a little bit of like gray. This is not like a super black and white topic. I feel like we have a lot of gray in the middle of it that kind of can like be where there's like the personal taste and the butter and stuff like that. But I do think that like when I think about it as like the like if we look at like the standard definition, I would say it still is just going to kind of come down to like where you are a really important consumer of content. Like you get to really choose in many ways like where this falls in, because we can see that like we have Duxun caught between the two potential love interests. They both do exhibit romantic feelings for Duxun at various points. One is much, I mean, we're still being coded, and I think that's fine. I'm fine not to be super over like the names and everything in this. And I ask you as listeners, like if you're unpacking this later, like try not to, because I don't want people to get spoiled on this drama if they don't have to. So like if you're chatting about it like on social media, like on our walls or like in the threads, just be careful with the names. That's my caveat. But we do see them exhibit romantic feelings and express them in different ways. And so, yes, one is much more, and I mean, that's the whole thrust of it, right? Is like the hesitancy and delay versus like forthright action over time and like who takes the cheese or whatever gets the girl. And beautiful and heartbreaking, because even though there are times where we can see the second male lead making some more overt gestures, that does cause like confusion and feelings. And there's times that you can see the heroine kind of being like, is that like, what's going on? Ultimately, yeah, because they waited too long. They were too held back by their own internal stuff. They end up becoming the second lead. I remember watching this though, and I think I was so invested in the second male lead.
Yes.
That I was genuinely surprised when we had the twist towards the end.
Yes. Agree.
And then I was even more surprised that I was okay with it, because I was so invested in the second male lead's like idiotic, toxic journey. Not toxic, but I mean, he felt so relatable to me in so many ways. But then in the end, I was totally fine to be like, that's how the cookie crumbles in life sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I mean, I can see that, like, yes, there's elements where like they were not actively fighting, but that was in some ways to me the beauty of what the trope kind of was, because within this love triangle, it wasn't just about who gets the girl. It's how do we save our friendship in this, because they both know that they have feelings by like at some point. And yet that friendship is also so important. And so there's so many like complexities and nuances within it that's what makes it so interesting to me.
I like you already brought it up with like enemies to lovers. I just think that there are degrees to tropes, and degrees or spectrums or whatever it's going to be, and they're fluid. There's not one like specific definition of like only this is a love triangle, only this is enemies to lovers. And I think that's what I like about it. And like you said, Megan, it's because the audience knows. Like the tension for me watching Reply 1988 and not knowing who it was, because I loved them both. But like you, Lia, I was very invested in the one who ends up being the second lead, that I was heartbroken when it wasn't him, even though I loved the one who she ended up, being with.
So, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, so I feel like if there is that tension for the viewer, which is the tension that a love triangle creates, right? Like, who's it going to be? Is he going to get there in time? And like, I still remember the scene where you see him rushing and you think it's him that gets there.
Right.
Yep.
And it's the other one. I like lost my mind that episode. So yeah, I think if it's creating that kind of tension, then it's doing the job that a good love triangle is supposed to do.
And I just want to throw in one other, because I guess slight spoiler for Mr. Sunshine if you want to skip ahead a little bit, but boop, 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 boop. Okay. Like this is, I mean, like there's love triangles left and there's like love pentagrams in Mr. Sunshine.
I don't even know what the shape is in Mr. Sunshine.
But again, like if you look at like Gudong Mei, our sexy samurai, that's another undeclared undeclared love interest. Like at no point does he give a grand confession of his love and feelings. The most you get is like his graspy little fingers on her dress. Yet that's like an iconically romantic scene. In part, the tension of that love triangle, it hinges and we're saying triangle here, love, whatever we are. I'm just using triangle for the thing.
Right.
It hinges on the fact that they're not hinges on the fact that they're not declaring.
Right.
Because that like is part of like the pain of it. And I guess, and then it becomes interesting because in the, like, we also talk about one-sided love. And so in neither of these cases do I feel like we're talking about true one-sided love. I do think that like Gudong Mei is probably like, that's a little bit less over, like, I just don't think there were no feelings for the heroine to Gudong Mei. And if there was, like, I can't relate. But no, I don't think there were no feelings. She was never like, yes, of course I'm going to like get with the Yakuza boss. But it wasn't that there was nothing there. I do think Reply 1988 is kind of like when you have these like choices that different people have. I've certainly had them where you've had like two different suitors of interest and two kind of paths in life are opening up for you. And you kind of have to choose between one or the other and what road you're going to go down on that. But I would never say the second male lead in Reply 1988 was also for me, never certainly like a one-sided love. I think that I think he was in with a chance plenty of times. It's just we had the pain of watching the bungle where if he just pushed a little bit, pushed with those mittens, pushed with a couple of things, like he could have been in the running.
So I was spoiled for that. Remember, Amy? I think I was somehow spoiled and not, you didn't do it. I'm saying, I remember I was like, told you, I don't know. I think I had to
watch it before me, I think.
I had to look oh no, it was Lia. I remember now because she was like, I tried to save you from the spoilers forever. And then all I did was like look up the one actress.
Oh, you Googled something.
I Googled like the actress. And right away spoiled immediately the ending of Reply 1988. I was furious because all I did was like Google the actress name or something. And Lia was devastated. And I would say if I hadn't have known, I would have assumed that the choice ends up as the second male lead. I would have assumed he got the girl. The way the drama was setting it up, like I'm a writer. I know the cues, and I was wrong. Even because the whole time I was like, maybe you didn't see a spoiler. I remember being so confused that the spoiler was right because of the way that the drama set it up. Mm-hmm. And actually, let's talk about Startup because that kind of leads me.
This one got mentioned too. Yep.
So, okay, I understand that there are some people who strongly dislike Startup, and I respect that. I will say, I get it. If you watch this drama live, the poster has two men and a woman, and you didn't know who she ends up with. I understand why. Okay, I'm going to say a spoiler for Startup. So if you have, actually, we're going to talk about spoilers for Startup for the next 5 minutes. So.
And we actually did not spoil Reply. We didn't. So
we actually didn't, but I'm spoiling Startup right now. Okay, right now.
Good Boy versus Nando-san. Ready?
Yeah.
Go.
You could, if I understand why people thought she was going to end up with Good Boy. It seemed like they were setting that up. It truly, truly did. I understand. I did not watch it live. I knew she ended up with Namdo-san, so it wasn't it was a love triangle, but I mean, I knew the ending just because it was all over the internet. It was like, it was everywhere. So, but I understand that expectations are hard if you are taking cues from what you're used to seeing, and like plotting choices. Interesting, Nam Joo-hyuk, who plays Namdo-san in Startup, also plays the male lead in 2521, which had a similar problem, I think. I'm gonna kind of spoil that a little, but
the marketing poster.
Yeah, the marketing for 2521 led you to believe that this was kind of like a lighthearted romance. And and it just wasn't. It was great. It was a great drama, and I wish I had been properly prepared, because then I think it would have been one of my top dramas, but I cannot get over the bitterness that I had at the end because of how the drama handled the ending. But because we did have a couple Patreons who have been like, hey, I'm watching 2521 now, knowing what you have said about it, and I'm really enjoying it. And it's like, yeah, you probably are, because you have proper expectations. So I understand a little bit why people who watch Startup got angry. And I also think part of it is, at the time, Kim Sun-ho was like K-drama darling. You know, everyone loved him.
Mhm.
Everyone loved him. I mean, I have more to say about Startup, but I'll let you guys maybe talk about what you thought when you started watching it.
I feel like I knew too, but I can't remember clearly because Leah was already on like her good boy journey. I feel like when I started it.
Yeah.
So I feel like
Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I feel like I might have already known. So I honestly can't remember.
I never didn't think that Good Boy was the second male lead. I feel like Namdo-san was like he was the main lead. Like it just was like this is, to me, watching it, like I went in and it was like immediately like he's the lead.
Right.
So I never really wondered, was I tortured emotionally the entire time? Yes.
Sure.
But also I did make peace because I wrote the second male lead SOS for Good Boy, but also I just was like, Good Boy, you're Bae Suzy. I love Bae Suzy and Juna. I like Bae Suzy. I have nothing against her. And Startup, I just felt like it was a bit Mary Sue for me. So I was like,
yeah.
Boy, I love you so much. You can get out of this situation.
You could do better.
This is your pain. This is your past. Find your future, Good Boy. But like Good Boy just hit, like, I think what makes this drama such a fun love triangle for me, even though like I felt like I never was like, who's she going to pick personally? It was, I like seeing this, like, I liked seeing in this case, like the hitting of like the emotional damage, yearning, love from afar. Like in some ways, actually, what this is to me, now that I'm saying it, is this feels to me like a much more active version of some of the archetypes we see in Reply 1988. Because we see like the second male. Oh God. Now I don't want to spoil anything again. God damn it.
Oh,
we're just going to put caveats and caveats on the show notes for this,
right.
Honestly, to say, if you do not want to be spoiled, just don't even get into it.
Don't even listen.
Right.
Don't even listen. Okay. Because the second male lead, I feel, okay, so here we go. This is going to be like, I did not think about this till now. So we'll see if my theory as I unpack it holds weight. I would say that the second male lead in Reply 1988 has strong echoes to me of the second male lead in Startup, and then vice versa with the leads, in terms of we have somebody who yearns, who waits, who wonders, because I think Good Boy could have lapped it up. Good Boy had the letters, Good Boy had the history. Good Boy could have come in and been like, I'm ready to claim my place here. Come, queen, come on the throne with me. Instead, they were caught up in all their bullshit, which is why ultimately they don't win the game and get the cookie, is because they are caught up in their internal bullshit. And by the time they've decided to like make that leap, it's too late. And it hurts because their bullshit is like relatable and hurt. Like, you know, like they're not just like dumb and in the way and like grasping, like it's all very relatable. And then we have the leads. They're both very smart. They're kind of both like slightly simple men. Like they know what they want to, like they're not in their head, just like in their shit, grasping. Like they're kind of like, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm trying to achieve. And so you kind of have that like pitting of like the earnest, smart, competent, like devoted, lovely lead with kind of like the like emotional basket case trauma pain of the second male lead. And so I think they both kind of like hit in the same emotional spots in both sides that like make it compelling to watch, because yeah, you don't just have like a jealous boyfriend or just like kind of like a bland good guy. You have these people that you're like, you deserve your entire own drama. You are so like compelling to watch. So that's where the pain comes. And to me, that is quality pain. Like if I'm going to sign on for 16 episodes, 20 episodes, 21 episodes, like I want to at the end be writing fan fiction on why like my choice should win.
Look, I'm impressed you made that parallel because it's actually totally checks out. You're right. They're very similar archetypes. Very similar archetypes. Tech and Namdo-san they would be friends. They would be friends the way tech bros are friends. Like they would just sit in a room quietly together, tapping away at whatever they do, but they would be friends. They're very similar. I think
that
Good
singular
Boy,
that singular focus.
Yeah.
Right. Like for Tech with Do and for Namdo-san with his programming.
Yeah.
Like,
and I
100%.
think so. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, obviously, the first episode of Startup, it's all Good Boy.
Mm-hmm.
I was so confused because this is okay. Now it's coming back to me. Like I knew he was the second male lead because I remember, I feel like I messaged Lia or something and I was like, I don't get it.
Right.
I thought that Namdo-san is the male and like they're setting it up that it's Good Boy.
I know. And that's what I thought too. But then I still remember when the leaf, it's like a leaf or a flower petal or something, and it goes fluttering all over Seoul and then lands like right on Nam Joo-hyuk, who's playing Namdo-san, lands right on his desk or his hair or something like that. And I remember I gasped. He had like really crazy hair and he's like in this hovel of an office on a rooftop
with his two
buddies.
Yeah.
And I do remember feeling like my stomach flutter. Like I was like, oh God, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. And it was.
And I think I just figured out what gets me in the second male leads in both of these, because again, I do put it under the love triangle umbrella. Absolutely. That's fine. If we want to, if you don't want that definition, that's fine. I am putting it under. But what I think it is what I realized I think I really love is both the second male leads and the end don't get the happy endings that they so desperately want. It's because they are afraid they are not lovable.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I think that's like that's what makes it so relatable. I was trying to think about like what makes it feel like, because to me watching it is like they're just afraid to put their heart out there and find out that they're not wanted.
But yet by the end, I think they've overcome that.
They have. And so
in not being chosen.
Are the right grounds for the love or for the fan fiction, because when they finish, you're like, I need you physically. You are now at the place where you could now, like you have learned so much. You are now perfectly like the romantic hero.
Yes. Like for Good Boy and Dalmi was who Bae Suzy played, the female lead. They were very important to each other at a point in each other's lives. Mm-hmm. They were important to each other's like emotional development, professional development. Like they meant something to each other. They're better people because of the relationship they had with each other. But they didn't end up romantically together. Mm-hmm. And so I think I still felt also fulfilled within that startup. I think there were a lot of people that are like, oh my God, he didn't get the girl. I hate this. And I'm like, but dude, like he came emotionally so far in that drama. It's not just about getting the girl. It's just not for Good Boy. It's not.
Yeah, the fatal flaw prevented them from getting love, but they had growth in the end, which makes you have like that like beautiful like ugh.
And like, Good Boy got a happy ending for me.
I would say that was my thought as far as like why I was okay with it not being him, is that during the drama he wasn't ready to be in that kind of a relationship. At the end he was, and good for him, because Lia wrote him a fantastic story. And go way back and listen to that second male lead SOS, because it's my favorite.
The K-drama gods just need to realize Good Boy deserves his own story.
Oh, so good.
I wish they would do that. I wish they would take second male leads.
There was just a Good Boy story. Like,
oh my God. It would sell. Everyone would watch it. Like, are you kidding me?
Good Boy spinoff. Put it out there.
Yeah, because spinoffs don't always work. I don't want a spinoff for Lia of Reply. Well, now we really don't want a spinoff of Reply 1988 because their personal lives didn't work out so well as well.
Right.
Like, startup, yes. Let's spin this off and have the Good Boy sequel.
Oof. And look, if you want to hear, I'm not going to give the whole reason I love Namdo-san because that's just not. If you do want to hear, we did a whole podcast on startup, and I wrote an essay on Namdo-san, and I spoke the essay on the podcast. So please, I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to defend Namdo-san because I did it for an entire podcast. So go listen to that if you want to hear. We're kind of more talking about the love triangle aspect of it. Because like I said, I think at the end I was still so happy because I thought Good Boy got a happy ending. I thought like emotionally he was like, okay, now he's ready for love. Now he sees that he's loved. He went through a whole cathartic thing with Almoni. Like he had his growth. He had his moment. Yep. He still had a great storyline.
I thought it was good writing.
Yeah. So I do too. I know. I think people.
And I'm okay with people who weren't happy with it. Like,
right.
To each their own. It really worked for me.
I guess I'm just saying, if you were upset about it, I get it, but also please just be happy for Good Boy. He came a long way in that drama. He did. He got a good ending. So don't be too sad, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And Namdo-san and Dalmi, come on. You can't tell me like they're good.
No, it was. That's why. Like, I mean, I just feel like I was hardcore teen Good Boy, but not for the drama.
Right. Or romance.
Yeah. Not for the drama. Yeah, not for the romance of the drama.
Right. I completely agree.
So I want to bring something up, another thing from the Patreon, which the question wasn't about it wasn't about love triangles, but it kind of fits. And that's Gavin saying that he's in his red flag era.
Oh.
And he says, do you have any recs for dramas with red flags that you just can't help but love? And my mind went straight to, well, are there any red flag, like second male leads in a love triangle that I love? And I've brought it up 100 times and I'll bring it up again. And that's Kim Woo Bin as Choi Young Do in Heirs. Like the reddest of red flags, second leads. Like he literally bullies the heroine. And I love him with all of my heart. I love him.
Look, I do like a red flag, and
Gudong May's a red flag.
yeah. Gudong May's a red flag. I'm gonna say, look, I don't talk about this drama enough because I'm never going to not stan it, and that is Boys Over Flowers.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched Boys Over Flowers with the worst wigs of all time, I don't care what. I mean, the thing you have to suffer, but here's the thing: is Meteor
and there's a love triangle in Boys Over Flowers.
There is actually
Gu Junpyo and Ji-hoo.
Yeah, there's a love triangle. And Meteor Garden, I also am going to just always shout out if you want to see a good red flag as well, because it's the spin-off. I mean, there's so many. There's F4 in Thailand. There's so many iterations of Boys Over Flowers. But it's problematic. And it's funny to me because sometimes I have listeners who reach out and they're like, why am I liking whatever this thing is? What does this mean about me? And I think I want to always like push back when that happens and say, why does this mean something bad about you? If you like this thing, I don't think it probably means something bad about you. I think it means something interesting about you. And that denotes unpacking, because I trust you, listener. Like if you're interested in like, okay, so for example, in Boys Over Flower, there's a scene pretty early on. This is not a big spoiler. We know this is like a bully romance. Like ice cream gets dropped on the
Junpyo.
Yeah. And he looks at the heroine and says, lick it. I have a visceral turned on reaction by that. Visceral to my bone. Do I actually, like in real life, if a man dropped ice cream on his foot and turned to me and said, lick it, I'd be talking about that till the day I died, pissed. Like, I'd be like, I mean, it would be outrageous. I wouldn't be like, on my knees, daddy, yes. Unless we were in like a consensual fucking kink ass role play, which like, no, unfortunately isn't happening in my living room. We're not going to have that as like a play scenario. But like if it just happened and like my husband was like making ice cream scoops and kicks in and like, Lia, get in here and lick it. I'd be like, what I guess we're not married anymore. In this drama that turned on. And so I guess to me, what I think about is like, I don't want to grapple with like, what does this say about me? Am I like do I not have self-worth? Do I not have like, no, none of that. It means that in fantasy spaces, there's probably some areas to like check in with and explore that are weird and fun, maybe kind of kinky, and that's okay. And so, and I think that's where red flags can be so fucking fun.
Yes.
Is like
in
it pushes
fantasy spaces.
those emotional boundaries in fantasy spaces where you're like, oh, why am I so like hot for whatever this bad boy is doing? Like, I forget, like the guy in the Glory, the baddie in the Glory.
Oh,
like, I mean,
stop! Such a red flag.
That man.
Oh,
But he's a bad man, and in real life, like I know he's a bad man. In the drama, I don't care. Right? I'm gonna write me some fiction on the side where like we are going to like the penthouse and doing dirty things.
Does he have like a big tub?
Flags are fun to me because they give you permission to check in with yourself, be challenged, and be like, I'm kind of like hot for whatever this is. And it doesn't mean that you're like secretly have some sort of like moral failing. It just means that like we're all turned on by weird shit.
And we recognize it too. Like I remember when we were watching Boys Over Flowers, we were like, Junpyo is the worst. I love him. I don't know how to explain it. And even like, so he is the male lead. And the love triangle in this, like Junpyo is the reddest of red flags. And the second male lead, Ji-hoo, is the greenest of green flags. And you still root for Junpyo. I mean, I love Ji-hoo, but I rooted for Junpyo.
Yeah, but you do love the second male lead. And
you do.
Like, I'm just going to speak today, Meteor Garden, Boys Over Flowers. I love the second male lead in both.
Mm-hmm.
I love Meteor Garden. And that hero was every red flag in the book, and I still love them in Meteor Garden.
Yeah. So just think about when you are turned on by a red flag character, it means be curious and think about like taboo is hot, shame is hot. Like there's a reason why there's so many, like there's a reason why like feeling bad can feel good. There's so many things there. And so like the red flag heroes are like your magic carpet,
right?
To putting some sprinkles on your vanilla ice cream.
Just realize that the fact that you realize that a character is a red flag means you're safe.
Yeah.
You're
right.
safe.
Right. Absolutely.
Every single character in Kin Porsche is a red flag.
Not Vegas. Oh no, Pete.
I was like, Vegas is the biggest red flag. What are you talking about? You're right.
Vegas is the molten hot core of the sun. Pete. Jesus.
Right. Vegas is the molten hot core of the sun. Yes, he is. I mean, yeah. Look, I love I read a lot of taboo romances for fun. So I super enjoy a red flag hero.
I mean, I just recently read, and I just downloaded the second one, Brynn Weaver's Butcher and Blackbird, which is two serial killers, like romancing each other. Like, do I want to fall for a serial killer in real life and also be one myself? Absolutely not. But in that fantasy space, I love it.
But not if they're trying to kill, not if like one kills. Like, remember we talked about that?
No,
book?
one does not kill the other.
One does, as long as one
push somebody off a bridge into the bottom of the ocean or whatever, bottom of a lake.
Oh, I love it. I have to shout out this comment on Patreon because it made me laugh a lot. Wait, let me find it here. Okay, this is another one from Katie. The best love triangle for me is Healer, Chaeyoung Shin, Park Ban-soo, because it's funny and nobody gets hurt. So if you've seen Healer,
yes,
you understand this. But basically, Healer has an alter ego named Park Bang-soo and then Chaeyoung Shin is the heroine. So it's very funny because it feels like a love triangle.
It's so funny.
Because sometimes you can tell he's like jealous of himself, that he's like, because she is like preferring one over the other, and it's hysterical. It's very funny, and I love that, and I'm really glad that Katie shouted that out because that's really, really good.
That is funny.
something I don't want to get into today because we don't have the time for it, but I would be interested to hear what listeners think is because it came up today even online just through our social media, and it's been making me think about it more. And you don't really, you know what, I was about to say, you don't really see it in dramas. You just see it in like a more watered down version. And it's talking about kind of like dubcon and what happens when we move into like the darker spaces, like non-con, dubcon, and like what does that mean? What does it look like? And I think because I would say that like, no, we're not, look, we've seen elements like we referenced Kin Porsche that definitely go into like what we would consider like dark romance. But I do think that like there's elements even in K-dramas that can happen that can kind of fall within some of these like
business proposal. I think about business proposal for dubcon.
And so, well, first let's just say like, and so I just want to like lay it out what it means so that we're not getting into it, but we're going to say that like consent is unknown, not established with certainty. Consent is absent. And so, and there's gradients within that. And we're not talking about real life and talking about it in real life. We're talking about in fictional spaces. And there's a lot of discourse that can happen around these things. And I think it's a fairly controversial topic, but I think it's an interesting topic. And I'd like to maybe talk about it as like a whole. I think it's something that deserves like a whole pod. I'm just curious if people would be interested in it or not. And I guess I also just realized as I say that, I'm just interested in it. So I guess I'll do it anyway because I think it's a good topic.
Yeah, I read I read dubcon sometimes. I don't really read non-con, but sometimes I'll read dubious content or consent in books. But I like to know going in. So I do that's the thing. I appreciate a trigger warning. I want to know going in if that's going to happen. Again, expectations are really big for me as any sort of reader, entertainment watcher, anything. If I have expectations on what's going to happen, I can prepare myself, and then I'm pretty much fine with a lot of things as long as I know going in. I just don't like being surprised with things like that.
Okay, so yeah, so I think we can look forward if you're interested. If you're not, just don't listen. But like I mean, it's not like I'm going to be like, yes, you must. I think it's just worthy of topic. Yeah. And the idea of dark romance being that it's like exploring unconventional or taboo relationships or complex, flawed characters, like the red flag type stuff we were talking about. Also, just kind of like there can be power struggles, there can be like the dubious consent. So it's just kind of like anything that feels like when we're talking about like the trope butter, we're usually talking about things in like lighter spaces. So this is kind of like that darker underbelly. And I personally want to talk about it because I've had such a like massive, profound shift in my thinking of it in like the 11 plus years I've been like actively working in romance spaces. But that's for another time. Why don't we?
Yeah. Any other Patreon comments before we close out?
You know what? There's a kind of a meaty one, but I think it's a fun closeout one.
Okay.
Let me just find it really fast.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Can I just read this comment from Heather?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know what she's talking about. So there was a Korean BL reality dating show. His man too had an actual love triangle for a moment where A liked B, B liked C, and C liked A. And it did. And it was amazing. I love this reality show. I think it is so good. His man too was so incredible. And there a couple came out of it, and they've been together now for like over a year, and they were two that were involved in the triangle. And I think everyone had, when this show was airing, like people had their choices. Like Sun Ho was the man at the center of the love triangle, and you had your choice of the two men that were vying for his attention. And so Heather's right. It was great. It's like pure K-drama entertainment.
Okay, so to close it out, this is a bigger question, but I think it's kind of like a fun one that we can treat like slightly lightly. I mean, it could be its own. You know what? Let's just go for it. So this is from Sarah, and it's just when we're talking about our top dramas, what makes a top drama for you?
I saw that question. I actually like that because she had also mentioned like there are people who are like, oh my God, this drama makes me cry every single episode. And she's like, I wouldn't have the emotional space for that. And I agree. I wouldn't have the emotional space for a drama that makes me cry every single episode. But for me, a top drama is one that I think about for days, weeks afterwards, and that I know I will watch again sometime, which is where I am right now with Lovely Runner. I still think about it every single day.
Yeah, for
You ever
me,
think about dramas that you don't like? Because I do.
I don't let them take up rent. Dramas that I don't like, no, I don't. I'm able to push those out.
I know I tend to forget about dramas I don't like. I just forget I watched them.
I do too.
Forgettable, but there's no dramas that like just you think about occasionally, like My Demon, and just get furious. For
No, like when it took me this long to think of the title of Love is for Suckers, because every time I want to bring up that drama about not liking it, I can't remember specifics except for like the one side character and the treatment of like, like body shaming and stuff like that. But even with the leads, I can't remember what I don't like about them. I just remembered I didn't like their story. And I can barely remember the title sometimes.
Yeah. For me, I'm like you. I don't know my top drama. I don't know if it's going to be a top drama. I'm sorry, that's how I want to word it. Until I've had some time like away from it.
Right, like decompress.
Yeah, because I'm the type of person that almost every drama I watch, when I get to the end, I'm like, I fucking loved it. Like that's the top drama.
This is the best one.
It's the best one yet. And so it takes me, and so now I don't do that anymore because I know myself. So now I give myself time, and then I see how it like slots in. And a big part too is the overlasting feeling I had. So even if like when I think of 25-21, say, I'm just giving an example, I still feel frustration at the ending. I have so much love for that drama. I do, but I also remember the frustration. So that keeps it out of like being a top drama for me. Whereas I think back to like I'm Not a Robot or Healer, and all I have are totally like warm fuzzies in my like just saying the names of those dramas fills me with happiness. That's how I know it's going to be a top drama. Or even like I know All of Us Are Dead, which it's crazy that because that doesn't fill me with warm fuzzies, but I remember being so incredibly moved by the real emotions of a zombie invaded high school that it stuck with me. So
it's so well done. Yeah. I mean, like, one of my favorite things about you watching Lovely Runner after me was the days after you watched it when you just messaged me randomly, I miss Sanjay.
I did. I missed him. I was like, I miss Sanjay because he was an absolute green flag.
Yeah.
The greenest of green flags. Like that's the thing. I think about that drama and I really enjoyed the world. I enjoyed the past and the present of that world.
Even when they were in school uniforms.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like both the past and the present, I really enjoyed the world of that drama and I miss it.
So first, I respect both of you for releasing things because I think that I'm like Reese Witherspoon's character in Big Little Lies, where she's like, I tend to my grudges like little pet, just quietly though. And then
because you can't let go of my demon.
And then I go to therapy and work on releasing it. But I think for me, so I have like a funny thing. If I know it's gonna be top drama, two things end up happening, and I simultaneously have like a huge need to binge it, and I have to pause it frequently while watching it because I'm like emotionally overloaded by my feelings during it. So I have to like go get water. I have to go to the bath. I like constantly am stopping the episode because I need to like process what I'm feeling. Whereas if I'm just sitting there like boodle doodle doo watching it, like it's fine. But like it's when I'm hitting pause being like, oh my God, they're about to kill. Oh, I've been doing this a lot with Midnight Romance and the Hagwon. Something's going to happen. I have to pause it because I just need to fucking sit here for a second and just be like, oh God, okay, I can go back into it. And so I have to like take these like emotional timeouts. And if I'm taking emotional timeouts, that means that it's going to be probably a top drama for me.
I love that. I remember being that way with Alchemy of Souls. I had to keep taking timeouts. I like that drama was so overwhelming on my senses in a million different ways. I had to take a lot of timeouts, especially in season 2. I had a really hard time in season 2. Like hard time as in I was just overwhelmed.
Very emotional. Season 2 is very emotional.
I would say my dearest, the first season as well. I would watch a scene and I would pause it and just sit with my feelings for a while.
Yeah. So it's funny because I'll be like, I'm going to pause it. I'm going to go like pick something up. I'm going to go make a cup of tea. I'm just going to like switch over and like look at some BTS reels. And like you would think that would mean I'm not enjoying it, but it's the exact opposite. It's like when I just sit and like blah on it, like that's usually when I'm just like, okay, sure, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get it. Yeah. Do you like sit with it then, or do you make the decision immediately when you're done?
I mean, if it's happening, then I'm usually like,
okay.
The only times
if it sticks the landing, it'll be a top drama.
Yeah, the only times it hasn't, but they still emotionally affect me. Like Something in the Rain is a really good example of one where I had to do that so much. And then in the end, it ended up not being a top drama for me because I just didn't like the last quarter so much. But I still like, I've never been able to just be like, I don't even know if I'm like mad at the drama. I don't know what I am. I truly loved it. And I know people come at the OST, like no one likes the OST for like these shows like Stand By Your Man or like The Turn to Page 64. I'm crotchety.
I liked it.
I like it.
I like it. In Midnight Romance, I'm loving the OST.
I'm like, da, 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 da. like I'm there. It's fine. I like it.
I like it.
I am very curious how you'll feel about One Spring Night. And I really feel like I need you to watch it now.
Oh, I'm watching it by the end of July.
I don't know if it's an Amy drama. We can discuss, but I do need you to watch it. And
she likes Midnight Romance and the Hagwon. I think
true. One Spring Night is just a constant relationship angst fest. That's what it is.
I like angst and I like quiet, but there's got to be some kind of hook for me to stick with it. And I think for me, for Midnight Romance, I am 100% invested and fascinated with the role of Hagwons in South Korean education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
well, we have a lot to come. So I'm excited about what we all are watching now and what we have coming up. But I hope you guys, I want to hear what other people say. I would like in the comments on Instagram, let us know. I want to know if you like love triangles, what's your favorite? Let us know.
And do not spoil Reply 1988 by name.
No,
I think I did by accident.
You did
earlier. I did.
But we're going to put that. We're going to just put that.
Yeah, we're going to put in the show notes that we spoil it.
Like this episode is spoiled.
Okay. Because it came out.
Yeah,
it just came out.
No, we're just spoiling it all. Because I mean, like I said, the second, I mean, we've just spoiled it.
Okay.
But if you're going to discuss it, do it with the biggest euphemisms, because I do think like it's such a good special drama for me to go in and not know what's going to happen.
I wish.
Yeah. 100%.
All right.
Yep.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Yep.
Annyeong.
Annyeong.
감사합니다. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!